Okay. So this is gonna be something that I'm okay. Let me start this off by the spark for this thought. Before I begin with what I'm about to say, let me kind of break down the spark for this thought. I was watching Cadell's last Death Drive 2 breakdown on how Alenka Zupančič wants to almost do this comparison between Deleuze and Lacan's notion of death drive. And something significant that I took from Cadell's breakdown of this and what Zupancic talks about with producing the new signifier. In this attempt to produce the new signifier, she talks about that the way to produce this signifier is by placing the subject at the level of talking, at the level of association. And this is the discourse that needs to occur. And a couple things about this discourse and how it should feel in terms of affects is that the individual should feel a sort of constant affirmation of unpleasure, insecurity, and instability. So what I am trying to construct here is actually a notion of Zupancic's and I'm basically taking her concept and I am trying to create an elusive dating subject. And this elusive dating subject would be exactly how Zupancic wants to go about how to produce the new signifier. And so this new elusive dating subject would have to be in constant affirmation of their unpleasure, insecurity, and instability. It's basically doing Freud's ultimate negativity, which would mean that we are going beyond comfort and going beyond security. More tension, more rupture of our present identity. So it would be more rupture of the dating subject. Basically, as Zupancic is quoted by Cadell, right? Die again. I think it's like die again, die better. Or is it die better, die again? And okay, so what is the elusive dating subject? How would this, if we take Zupancic's notion of the subject producing a new signifier at the level of talking, here we can radically change the dating discourse. And recently I've been having conversation. Someone recently brought a comment to me about, truth needs to be seductive and it needs to be elusive. A friend, David Pasti, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. He provoked this idea. And so I agree with him that the truth needs to be seductive and as well elusive. So what does it mean now to be an elusive dating subject? Okay. An elusive dating subject at the level of discourse, at the level of talking through associations, to give an example, it would be like this. Instead of engaging in conversation with me, let's say we're in a date, right? Instead of enacting all of the false conversations from the false self, as a dating subject, you would actually say just the things that come to your mind immediately without judgment. This would be how you become an elusive dating subject. And the reason why I started thinking about this radical shift in the elusive dating subject is because actually this would sort of crash the individuality, the false sense of individuality that the subject has against the ideal self. And so what this would mean for affects is exactly like how Zupančič wants in the individual, right? This sort of constant tension, insecurity, instability, right? The dating realm is just filtered with algorithms. You can dating websites, everything follows a dating kind of algorithm. Even if we are not actually doing online dating, we still follow an algorithm, right? How I should dress, how I should arrive, the things that I should say, maybe a sort of open the door for the person. All these sort of algorithms that unconsciously feed into the discourse of the dating subject, right? The things that we feel like we should say that would constitute a good date, right? This is all predicated on the false self with your ideal image, right? So instead of getting to know each other, instead of asking questions about each other, start saying things that just come to mind when you look at each other. Rather than asking each other, how is your day going? Start immediately saying things that pop up in your mind about your day. And this kind of discourse, this is a radical discourse in my opinion, because what it allows is, it literally would allow you to be an elusive dating subject. And this elusive dating subject, right, you would always feel like you actually really don't know this person. But the thing that is pivotal here is that if we take Zupančič's proposal, is that actually you would be getting more contact with the real. Now, I'm not going to break down exactly what the real is, because this would go into Lacan and everything. But basically, just for people that are not accustomed to me saying the real, what I'm going to say is that for the dating subject, everything is basically, if we're using Lacan's sort of triangulation of the real, symbolic, and imaginary, what we are always having an interaction with is always the imaginary, basically, right? But the thing is that the imaginary covers over the real. So what we need to be is like objective fictions. This is what Zupančič says, and I like Cadell's breaking down of this idea. Objective fiction. So actually, instead of saying who I think I am to my date, I would just say things that immediately come to mind about myself. Actually, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't do that. I would just say things that immediately come to mind. Because the problem with dating is that we're going to ask each other, and the only thing that we're ever going to make contact with is the imaginary, is the false self, right? Just to give you a clear example, it would be like someone saying, oh, I'm an independent person. I like this and that. I like this movie and a lot of, like all that stuff, right? That's all predicated on the false self. But what needs to happen is just not, I would actually encourage less talking, because the more talking that you do with your date, with the dating subject, the more talking that occurs is that we're only having contact with the imaginary, right? The false self, the false notion of who we think we are, and everything like that. I would encourage less talking and only encourage you to speak as a dating subject once you feel the need to arise, meaning that once you can associate something without judgment on yourself, right? Without judgment. And of course, how this is going to feel on a date, and why this would feel so, it would feel like having a lot of tension and insecurity, which is good, which is exactly what Zupančič wants in order to produce the new signifier, is that we need to have this tension, right? And actually, a lot of people freak out on dates, right? They feel like they need to say something, right? So I actually would encourage less talking and only talk when you feel the necessity, the impulse. I think that would be a better gauge. The impulse to associate without judgment. I know this kind of radical, elusive dating subject discourse is by no means going to be an easy thing, because we're already so accustomed to judging how the dating, the other, is going to perceive us. And of course, it's not only how the dating other is going to perceive us, but how it's already going to go against how we perceive ourselves. But if we use the dating subject's associations in correspondence with the other dating subject's associations, what we will have is contact with each other's real. And this is a way to have objective fictions have a conversation with each other. And so this, in my opinion, is the radical honesty that would actually occur. Because, and now I can finally tie Cadell's notion of what he was asked, I feel like we can actually advance further Cadell's notion of that we need to be honest on first dates rather than sort of, but I guess the only problem now that I look at that is that the problem that can occur with his notion of honesty is that it can still be predicated on the false notion of the self, right? What I think I need, what I think I lack. So a better method for this elusive honesty would be that we need to do associative discourse, things that just arrive to mind, rather than forcing the discourse. You let the discourse arrive. You let the discourse rupture within itself. And so actually within a date, what you would have is the elusive dating subject constantly dying, constantly in a state of insecurity, constantly in a state of just unpleasure, because what the dating subject is feeling is this split, right? Like Lacan's split subject, basically, where it's like your false self and all the things that you think you are is not is not true. And so I think I explained this. Hopefully I explained this well enough, because I found that to be a very interesting way to actually scramble the algorithm of dating, right? Because ever since we have known dating, it has always followed a specific algorithm. But I think because of the rise of capitalism, it's just even worse now. And it's so worse that this radical shift would need to happen. Instead of following algorithms, instead of following dating coaches and so on, because it only perpetuates the freaking algorithm itself. And what people think that algorithm is that the only algorithm that I would propose is just a free associative discourse. What comes to mind? That's it. Don't think about what you should say, just what comes to mind. Stop this nonsense of getting to know each other. Just say what comes to mind. When I see you, when I think about you, when I look at you, when I, what are the random feelings that arise without, and sort of this will challenge the subject's false judgment that they have construed against themselves and what they think the other is thinking. And if we radically all do this, I can't imagine what kind of things would occur or how the dating course would look like, because actually it would be so elusive. Basically, it would be so elusive that the dating subject just isn't real. I mean, it isn't. Well, I mean, it isn't already real. That's something I'm going to go into later. But anyways, I think that hopefully that gets my point across about the elusive dating subject. And I hope the examples I gave were like relatable and concrete, because I mean the dating world now is just so obsessed with asking, what are your preferences? What do you think you're like? Tell me everything about yourself. This is just all imaginary. What we need is straight up just associative thoughts, associative things immediately. And also to keep in mind that we probably need to do less talking, because I can guarantee you probably 80% of the conversation is just BS, meaning you're just spilling out just false self things, false self concepts, preferences, and ideas of who you think you are and what you think your date will like. But I can see this progressing in stages, right? Just sort of do less talking, more associating. And then, because what you're going to try to do is try to overcome your self-judgment and what the other you think is thinking. And then hopefully what we can make is construct an elusive dating subject, which Zupančič would say, we are now with the elusive dating subject is trying to produce a new signifier. Okay, I think that finally gets across what I want to say. So, all right, take care, guys. I think I got it across.